Previously, with traditional equipment, we could have sensors that told us there had been an extraction, for example, of fuel, but we didn't know how it had happened. So now more customers will be able to access this kind of technology. And this has made it so that, for the most part, about 80% of the functionality offered by a lower-cost device is already enough to meet the needs of a local customer.
Is there any strategy or alternative we can take so that this doesn't become a bigger obstacle?
That is, customers for whom the value of their goods is important and who need to keep an eye on where and how things are being unloaded. That means a device that could easily cost $100 ends up costing $150. Video analytics is a key moment for them to make that leap.
Hello and welcome to Navixy Telematics Talks, the podcast where we discuss the main topics in GPS technology, smart mobility, and fleet management, together with expert leaders. This is one of Navixy's contributions to the growth of the telematics industry, bringing innovative ideas and new perspectives. Today, we are in Bogota, Colombia. Joining us is Juan Carlos Arenas, General Director and founder of ICS de Colombia. With over 16 years of experience in the telematics industry, Juan Carlos is here today to share his perspectives and knowledge about video telematics, not only in Colombia but also at a regional level, as well as the main opportunities and challenges he faces as a telematics service provider in the region. Welcome, Juan Carlos.
Thank you very much, Juan Carlos, for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here, contributing all the innovation that's happening in the telematics sector, and to share experiences that, in the long run, help us as a community to stay informed about what's going on and to improve. I'm glad to be here to contribute to the growth of this business.
Thank you very much, Juan Carlos. Recently, Navixy integrated different brands of cameras and MDVR dash cams. Tell me, from your perspective as a telematics service provider, what are the main challenges in ensuring the availability of these products? Storage, warranty, and support for your clients?
Well, the video surveillance or dash cam market, as such, is a very interesting market with a lot of growth in the region. It will allow clients to move from having basic telemetry to much more advanced telemetry, being able to see firsthand what's happening in the operations of their vehicles. It's an important moment for the region because we are currently transitioning from second-generation to fourth-generation networks, and these new communication capabilities allow us, with this equipment, to offer clients new functionalities to improve operations, reduce accidents, and, in general, mitigate risks. This is going to be very interesting for our clients. There's also another important point, which is that prices have noticeably dropped compared to 5 years ago, so more clients will be able to access this kind of technology.
What you mentioned about the new brands entering the region and the differences in prices and configurations is really interesting. Do you find that there is currently any difference between the type of product demanded in LATAM versus other markets like North America, or even within LATAM itself? Do you find there are differences between the countries you serve?
It's important to keep in mind that the two regions, North America and all of Latin America, are quite different from each other. In North America, the market is much more mature, much more advanced, and more technologically developed. The North American market looks for information that is directly connected to the cloud. Transmission and coverage in these countries is much broader. On the other hand, in Latin America, what clients are looking for are solutions with functionality that allows them to have basic notifications, as well as a mix between cloud storage and local storage, because that reduces costs. It's also important because when it comes to transmission, we have geographic complexities in these countries that often cause communication interruptions. This doesn't allow for direct, real-time communication with the platforms. So, by using systems that have direct local storage and only uploading what's important to the cloud, you often benefit in terms of price and meet what clients really want.
Now that you mentioned pricing, do you find For example, that the market currently offers different alternatives in terms of price? When it comes to camera sophistication, is there a hardware offering that covers needs from the most basic to the most advanced?
Yes, the market has the potential to keep growing. Previously, we had a few competitors who were the main players, very well-known companies with high quality, and they were the only ones who could break into the market because they had that edge. In recent years, we've seen other competitors catching up and closing that gap because they've introduced products to the market with greater functionality, integrating all the artificial intelligence features. This has meant that, for the most part, about 80% of the functionality offered by a lower-cost device is already enough to meet the needs of a local client. So this has also helped bring costs down and allowed clients to start integrating these devices into their operations.
Okay. Nowadays, Navixy, by integrating brands and hardware from manufacturers that offer such a wide range and family of products, with solutions ranging from 2 channels without artificial intelligence, all the way up to 14 channels with DMS and ADAS. What industries do you see benefiting from this integration with Navixy and the hardware?
Look, I think the industries that struggle the most with these kinds of solutions are those that transport very delicate goods. That is, clients whose merchandise is valuable and who need to monitor where and how their goods are being unloaded. Also, the entire transportation industry that uses very large vehicles, where fuel is a critical factor and, unfortunately, theft is a significant issue in the region. So they need to have many ways to get a clear view of whether something is happening, how it happened, and where it happened. Because before, with traditional equipment, we could have sensors that told us there was, for example, a fuel extraction, but we didn't know how it happened. But now, with the option to have multiple cameras, that also gives the client the ability to have better security over what's going on. So I clearly see industries like heavy transport, trucking, where fuel is extremely important. And on the other hand, in the area of cargo transport, it's also important to see what's happening with the cargo itself. Those are, for me, 2 clear segments that are important in the industry.
Okay. And speaking of these manufacturers, these device makers, we know that all of them are. In other regions, how do you think tariffs, import costs, shipping, and taxes affect the penetration of this industry in the region? Is there any strategy or alternative we can take so that this doesn't become a bigger obstacle?
Obstacle. Yes. We've noticed, and unfortunately, when we compare North America with Latin America, the value of tariffs increases the cost of equipment a lot. When we see that in the United States, Mexico, and Canada, the cost of hardware is very similar to the retail price. Here, after going through shipping, import tariffs, and VAT, it means that a device that could easily cost $100 ends up costing $150. What do we as product distributors do to ease this burden for the customer? Well, for one, many times we have to finance the equipment and not just make a straight sale, because for a large client, having to buy 50, 100, or 200 units becomes a significant investment that really impacts them. So what we actually do is encourage handling it as a service. And that's where we can really leverage the added value we offer through platforms like Navixy, as well as our local technical support. This allows the client to absorb that investment over time, making it much more attractive to implement these kinds of solutions. Another important point here is also to reach out directly to the manufacturers in many cases. And as the Navixy group, together with the resellers we have in the region, we make direct approaches so that they can see the potential we have, not just ICS making a purchase, but that we are making purchases across Central America and other countries in South America. And that allows us to get better prices, which in turn helps offset the costs associated with shipping, customs duties, and so on.
Very good. Now that you mention it, Navixy is positioned as one of the leading telematics management software solutions, and these manufacturers already see us in a very positive light, and we have quite a few close connections with them. I think this could help us with the distribution of their hardware in the region. And that's where I want to ask you, do you think these manufacturers that are a bit more quality and cost-efficient, like QuickLink, StreamAX, Metax, Hoenn, are closing the gap in terms of quality and competitiveness compared to other, somewhat larger or more established brands like Samsara, Motives?
Yes, we clearly see this gap narrowing because previously, what these manufacturers could offer were very specific video solutions that basically just did video and storage. Over time, these brands have started to introduce analytics and AI features, and everything related to DMS and so on, and that has significantly helped to close the gap they had with the others. We have seen that, as we mentioned earlier, these manufacturers have managed to reach about 80% in their functionalities, which allows customers, thanks to these improvements, to no longer have to make such a large investment in high-end equipment. But rather, they will have it, and these are manufacturers who have also matured a lot in their manufacturing processes, which means they are delivering extremely high quality, very reliable equipment with much better warranties. This also gives our clients peace of mind, knowing they are not buying or acquiring equipment with a very short lifespan, but are also thinking ahead. Another important thing is that these manufacturers are now also putting a lot of thought into updates through photos and remote systems, so the equipment doesn't become obsolete like before. Instead, we can have design and factory improvements that can be transferred and enhance the products, giving the equipment much more usefulness and a longer lifespan.
Super. Thank you very much. One of the things we hear most often at the Navixy offices regarding ICS operations is the satisfaction of your clients. In fact, tell me what has been your key? What do you find is the most efficient way to help other companies develop their telematics businesses, as well as support fleet operators who are looking for your services?
Okay, well, one of the things, I think something that's really important and that our clients value about us is that we provide very close support. That is to say, a final client isn't just about billing and providing basic support. It's about being there with the client, training them, and educating them. With Navixy's partner network, the success we've had is because we treat it as if it were our own company and how we grew. And with them, we try to make it not just a system where you do licensing billing for Navixy as such, but that they come along. We found a project where we did this. Everyone connect and we'll share our experience, our success story with you. And so they start to open their eyes because many times these are companies that started out small and have a very basic idea of what GPS is. And with the information, experience, and success stories we have, it opens their minds to offering different types of solutions and products to their other clients. So the idea is that we all grow together. So always our goal in the market is that we grow together. Whether it's with an end customer, both they and I feel at ease with Navixy, knowing that a client I acquire when they're small will be able to grow with us in any horizontal or vertical line. We've had clients who start with one line of business for the logistics area and end up involving the commercial department, the human resources department, and the security department with the same solution. So the client starts to see that it's a solution not just for tracking a vehicle's location, as people initially thought about this market, but that many departments get involved, and our resellers also start to learn more, and we also begin to build relationships, as I mentioned earlier, with the manufacturers. So they realize it's not just a business of you give me, I win. Sorry, it's not a business where I offer you something and you just pay me for a service. Instead, it's about coming in, getting to know what the market is doing, where the market is heading. It's also very important for us to see what our suppliers like Teltonica, Hoven, and QuickLink are doing and where they're going so that we, together with Navixy, can stay as market leaders. And clearly, with Navixy, we know we're leaders, and that's something that's key in the market. let's say, in our region, and I see this a lot in Central America and South America, it's that there's competition coming in with very cheap devices, offering extremely low-cost solutions where we simply can't compete. So the important thing there is the message, how we communicate to the client that they shouldn't choose based on price, because that's what affects us most in this region. The thing is, the client is always looking to get the lowest cost. But when we change the conversation and the client understands that it's not just about cost, but about how you're getting security and controlling your operation, saving money and how you recover your investment with that, then the client, now we're not talking about how much it costs, we're talking about how much they're going to save with this. So making sure to communicate that message to our end clients and to our resellers as well is key to achieving that growth.
Yes, you touched on a couple of very important points, and I'm going to start with the second one. Definitely, Navixy brings much more value when it's not just about a point on the map. We know that this market is becoming more and more commoditized, and as you said, there are increasingly more affordable, more basic solutions that are meeting part of that need. But we also see an evolution, both among end users and among Navixy's distributors and resellers, toward developing much more customized solutions with much more personalized and advanced data management demands. Thank you. And we believe that this is where the key lies for telematics service providers to differentiate themselves and maintain independence, let's say, from the high competitiveness in these basic segments, the power to stand out, and to be able to secure a decent market share with promising prospects for success. The other point that really caught my attention, and I completely agree, is the aspect of community building. It's one of the main characteristics of your operation, this very close support for end users and resellers. Without this perception that the market is limited, it becomes a win-win situation. Because you're constantly sharing knowledge, sharing success stories, learning from each other, and growing the operation. And in the end, you contribute to the growth of the telematics industry in Latin America. All right, Juan Carlos, now I'd like to touch on the topic of the future. What does the future hold for us? We know that video telematics is just taking its first steps in LATAM. Even though there's already a general awareness, we still face many challenges. We know, for example, that when it comes to connectivity, these data plans are also being adapted to the needs of the region, not just in terms of transmission capacity, but also in terms of cost. I want to know, or for you to briefly tell me, what are your growth prospects for ICS Colombia over the next 2 or 3 years?
We have a significant challenge, but we also have an advantage that's being provided by the telecommunications sector. Right now, in many countries in the region, they're shutting down 2G networks and moving us to 4G, and later on it will be 5G. This is an extremely important moment for us and for our clients. For example, in Colombia, the 2G network still hasn't been completely shut down, and clients are still waiting for it to be turned off before migrating. So there we have a huge potential to tell the client, well, now is the time for you to make a new investment. What do I prefer to do? Go with a conventional GPS or migrate to video and analytics technology? And clients are very willing to do this because they have to make that investment anyway. Because fortunately, it's a necessary step since the technology we have is already very outdated. So over the next 2 or 3 years, there's enormous potential. We have a commitment to our clients to keep sending them information, to hold seminars, to notify clients that they have many options to choose from, and that video analytics is an important opportunity for them to make that leap. And as you mentioned, it's also a matter of costs continuing to decrease in data transmission. Now we can have plans with much greater capacity for transmitting voice and audio, which previously held us back because it was very inadequate. So the client would end up losing interest because they didn't get the quality and response they wanted. Now, with advances in technology, that also allows us to get much closer to the customer, to their needs, and to the technology itself. So I think that over the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to see significant market penetration with devices, enabling customers to have much better information.
All right, Juan Carlos, thank you very much. And tell me, just to wrap up, what is your vision for continuing to support fleet management for transport operators in the region? Recently, the requirements from authorities have increased, as well as the need to comply with certain regulations in Colombia, and not just in Colombia, but throughout the region. What is ICS Colombia's vision to support them in compliance?
Well, the most important thing here is having a partner like Navixy. The development of the platform allows us to address any type of requirement that may arise from government regulations or from the clients themselves. There are clients who are very large and have specific regulations they must comply with, and a conventional platform just won't provide that for you. The advantage of Navixy, through its development and the tools it provides to us as integrators or even to the clients themselves, is that within the information and the platform, they can consume the data. That is something that truly sets us apart in a very significant way in the market. So, for example, I'll give you some specific cases in Peru with SUTRAN, which is an entity that requires vehicles in transport to transmit information to them. In Colombia, we have everything related to the illegal mining law through yellow machinery, where all yellow machinery in the system must transmit data to the national police servers. As you mentioned, the strategic road safety plan also requires certain information. So there's a lot of information that can be extracted from the Navixy ecosystem by default, but what isn't there, or it doesn't worry me, nor does it worry the client, because at any moment, it's simply a matter of having developers who know what needs to be done, and the information can be transmitted to any environment, an ERP, a CRM, through web services, or to government systems. So that gives us a lot of peace of mind, and that's where I emphasize that the client starts out with us, and both the client and we can rest assured that throughout their journey, any new requirement that comes up, we'll be able to handle it. It's simply a matter of accessing development tools and making sure the client gets the results they're looking for. And that's something, for example, that many resellers who have come to us have told us. It's the only partner able to integrate the specific needs we had as a project, and that's why they decided to work with us after trying out other companies.
Thank you very much, Juan Carlos. All right, we've reached the end of our conversation. On behalf of the entire Navixy team and personally, I want to thank you very much for your contribution to the growth of the company and the telematics industry in the region. It's a pleasure to have your support and your experience on the team. You are part of our team, and well, count on us to keep growing this and to continue taking telematics in Latin America to the next level.
Thank you very much, Juan Carlos, and also on our behalf. It's a pleasure to work with Navixy. We've been working together for several years now. It's a company that, ever since we adopted it, has also changed our business, and that's why we keep working together. We'll stay loyal and keep growing together, because I know that with you, I have a company that understands our needs, that's a market leader, and here we can't afford to just play at following the leaders. Here, we have to be the leaders and let the competition follow us. And that gives me a lot of confidence and security.
Thank you very much, Juan Carlos. Thank you all for joining Navixy Telematics Talks. There's still a lot more to come. So don't forget to subscribe on the main platforms. Navixy is shaping the future of the telematics industry, and we'd love to share it with you. See you next time.